Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javanokelo, live from Seattle.
Thank you for being here with me. I'm so grateful, to be here, to see this wonderful day. And we have a proverb from Nigeria that we're going to be discussing today. I hope you're all doing well. Whenever we come here in the Daily African Proverbs, we pick a proverb from Africa. We try to get a new proverb from a new country every single day. And we bring it here, we dissect it, and we gain wisdom from it. So I'm so excited to share what my thoughts are about this proverb that says, you must be willing to die in order to live. You must be willing to die in order to live. I feel that this is an important proverb that we need to discuss, especially in these times that we are living in. Today I am hoping to bring in a guest. He's a good friend. He's not on Clubhouse, but I'm hoping I can bring him on YouTube. His name is Gary, and he's a really excellent example of, how much work you have to put in this concept of you must be willing to die in order to live, because it's not easy. Like even living itself, the ability to wake up every day. A lot of us are even doing work that we don't want to be doing, but we wake up every day and go and do it anyway, and we have very little time for our passions, but we know that this is what I have to do now, and I'm willing to do something that I really don't want to do in order for me to do a little bit of what I love doing. And we are stuck in that cycle for a while. So for us to live, we are willing to die in that cycle of doing something that we don't really want to be doing. So we are willing to kill a part of our dream. For me, this proverb applies in very many different situations. It applies in even sacrificing. Sometimes when you sacrifice, you're willing to kill something in order for something else to live. So this proverb is teaching us what is it that you'd be willing to kill in order for something else to live. It's about the difficult decisions that people make. For example, we know that there are a number of African immigrants that every day, even as we speak, are trying to cross from Libya to Europe, and a lot of them don't end up making it. But they leave their homes, whether it's in Nigeria, whether it's in Eritrea, whether it's in Kenya, knowing that I'm going to cross this ocean and I'm going to make it. They're willing to die in order to live. So very many examples, and it's a question that we could ask ourselves, what is it in our lives that can relate to it? So I was in a really amazing conference call with the wife of, literally I had to leave that call in order to start this room. I was so tempted to try and bring it here, bring that conversation here, but I just didn't know how to go about it. Anyhow, it's the Third International Africa Forum. So Jane Aidu, who has been a very great friend of the Daily African Proverbs, he was a minister in Nelson Mandela's cabinet in South Africa when Nelson Mandela was still alive. Anyhow, Nelson Mandela's wife, Graca Machel, who was was speaking when I left that conversation. And there were activists from Tunisia, from South Africa, from all across the world. And people, it was an intergenerational conversation between elders and young activists and people who are involved with the Egypt revolution, Tunisia, some of the activists. I think they were reflecting on the last 10 years, since the Egypt revolution and the Arab Spring. What are some of the things that have happened well? What are some of the things that could be done better? This was the first time that I got into a conversation like that, so I just wanted to share. But really, this proverb, to me, it's a reminder and it's a warning that every day we are doing things that indicate that we are willing to die in order to live. The sacrifices, the little things that we do every single day. With that, I want to welcome Olivia, and I want to welcome Sean. I want to introduce Olivia so that she can lead the conversation for the next few minutes. The hand raising is open. You can all join us on stage and share your interpretation of the proverb. At 6:30, we are going to turn off hand raising. I just want you all to know that this space is open to everyone to share your interpretation of the proverb freely, whether you are a Christian or Muslim. It doesn't matter your religion, and also it doesn't matter where you come from, your country, or your sexual orientation. Here, everybody is welcome, and our main purpose is to make our ancestors proud. So Olivia is a wonderful, wonderful, leader. She's a poet, singer, sword swallower, and a writer based in London. Olivia was instrumental in helping us produce Africa Day in May this year, and she was instrumental in helping us produce Madaraka Festival, also, which was done in person as well as virtually, both on Clubhouse and YouTube. I'm just so grateful, Olivia, for everything that you continue doing, not just with the things I'm involved with, but throughout Clubhouse and in London. So thank you again. The mic is yours. Guide the conversation for the next few minutes. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Simon, and hi, everyone. It's so good to be here, and I'm glad I can make it at the moment. And yes, I really try to get involved into Clubhouse more, and more of the jams and more, but it's really difficult because I'm so busy at the moment. But thank you, and I will always come here first, and then see if I have time for anything else. So, yeah, the proverb today, you must be willing to die in order to live. I mean, there are so many. I feel like it's like a quadruple ended sword to talk about all the things that came to my mind. There are so many bits. But I think the biggest thought I had around this was, thinking about the ego. Like we can stand in our own way of experiencing joy and happiness so much, while when we don't get to do something we want to do, or when something doesn't work out the way we want it to work out, or we have planned it, or if something it's not going our way, we can get so upset and so obsessed with those negative feelings that we, miss out on actually just enjoying a moment, or living the moment in and having fun. So, I mean, yeah, getting over our ego is, every time we attempted a little death for ourselves, but it will create space to let us, live. Um, so, yeah, welcoming failure and embarrassment is difficult, and it's difficult to face the death of our ego. But if we if we remind ourselves in that moment that will liberate us, that will bring us forward, that small miseries that hurt our ego can be overcome easily, because it's only ourselves we have to deal with for the greater joy that's around that corner, that's around the next bend. I think it brings us forward and living more free and happy and enjoying life. So that's my thought to the proverb today. And with that, I would like to introduce Sean as our first guest here in the Daily African Proverb. Sean says, "Your present circumstances do not determine where you can go. They merely determine where you start." A quote by Nido Qubein. So I'm very gladly open the floor for you, Sean, and the room is very interested in your interpretation about our proverb today.
Thank you, Olivia. It's good to hear you. I haven't been able to be on for the last few days due to other circumstances, so it is really nice to be here and to be able to be a part of this. And Simon, the conference that you're talking about sounds so amazing. And I hope you're having a chance to listen to it at the same time as being on here. Can you access all of your good there? Let's see. As far as the proverb for me, one of it hit me a couple folds. So just like you were saying, Livia, with the multi-bladed knife, when I lived in Italy, I had a friend who was from Nigeria, and she lived along the border of the Sahara. And when she was growing up, it was so bad, the famine and excuse me, the drought and stuff was so bad. She was in a family of 12, and she had a son of her own. And her mother would go out and get a yam and would cook the yam, and that's what was there to feed them. And at the end of the day, what she would eat would be, her mother would scrape her hands along the sides of the pot to eat what was left of the yam. And my friend, was so sick of yams and so sick of her family and so sick of her child. She just couldn't, she didn't feel like there was anywhere else for her to go, that there was no future for her. That's what she felt like. Let me see if I can phrase this well. But she looked around her and she could not feel a future for herself, could not see a future for herself. And so one day she just started walking into the Sahara. And that's what she did. She just started walking into the Sahara, left everything behind, because she knew that if she had stayed where she was at, that she would surely die in, a long, slow, agonizing death, that there was really nowhere for her to go. And, according to her family and according to her culture and according to where she came from, what she did was really completely unacceptable, just leaving the whole family behind and walking into the Sahara. And also for her, she just walked into the Sahara. She didn't take water with her or anything like that. She just started walking. Now, eventually she made it to the Mediterranean, obviously because she was my friend in Italy. She made it to the Mediterranean and she made it onto a boat that ended up over in Italy. And she ended up in landing in this land that at the time, Italy, and I don't know if it has changed at all, but at the time, Italy had such a huge influx of immigrants, both Armenian and from Africa, that the Italians who had been living there previously, and the Italian government was really anti-immigrants. And so, she left her home in Nigeria, walked across the Sahara Desert by herself with nothing, made it across the Mediterranean, landed in Italy, and was, despised in Italy. And yet, was really judged against. The people were judgmental of her and did not want her there. And that kind of thing. Came to this land that didn't even want her, left her family, and came to a land that didn't even want her. And yet she was so much happier, so much exponentially happier. And she never regretted doing what she did. She wished it could have been different, and she wished that things could have been different, but they weren't, and it didn't change the fact that they weren't. And I've always been intrigued by that, being able to have, and I've had experience, not the same, not even the same, but I've had experiences of the same spirit where I've looked around myself and said, I can't exist here. And even though it was socially and culturally inappropriate, I've still walked forward out into, a different kind of desert, into an unknown that was scary. And I feel it's always important when we come to those places in life to be able to tap into that space of courage within ourselves that enables us to walk out into that unknown, into that fear, and to know that, who knows where we're walking into. We might walk into a land that despises us or something along that lines, but it doesn't change the fact that we had to do it, and that it really does expand ourselves, and it makes us pioneers, moving us into new places that need to be tamed, and that need to be that we need to learn, and that they need to be taught both at the same time. And that truly, if we can tap into that courage, it's life changing for not only ourselves but everyone else around her. Eventually she was able to bring her family over into Europe, and they didn't stay in Italy. They moved, I think they moved to France actually, but she was able to bring over her family. So eventually they were able to live a life that wasn't a life of starvation and poverty, in the ways that they had known them. I mean, according to the French probably looked at them and thought they were still impoverished, but, going from eating one yam a day to, living in a home with electricity and access to really excellent education and being able to work jobs and being able to, eat every day was such a big change, and such a good thing for them. So sometimes we have to go against our culture and our family and everything, walk into that desert and embrace that fear, and walk into a place that doesn't even want us, so that we can stand there and become everything that we are. So I'm sorry this was long, but thank you for letting me share, and I yield the mic back to you.
Thank you so much, Sean. This was an incredible story. Thank you for sharing this. And yeah, tapping into our courage to be able to live. This reminds me of a story that I would like to share. So after the Second World, so I grew up in Germany, and after the Second World War, as we all know, the Germans got defeated, and as one of the outcomes, Berlin got parted into two pieces. So they just, they took a part of Germany, they made that east, and they had a socialist government there, and then they took the rest of Germany, which stayed, it was a democracy, but then also it was like delegated by the Allies, which from England and America. So they just drew a line, as the Germans love to do in other countries normally, and they drew a line through Germany, Berlin, which was the capital at this point. They drew a little line, and then they came on and they pushed people to left and right, and they built a real tall wall. So regardless of people and families being separated, not being able to kind of get back together after the long war, they just built this wall and said, okay, now you are DDR, that's one part of the Germany, and the others are on the other side. Around Berlin was like a no man's land, and people weren't allowed to cross this wall. And if you would cross the wall, you get shot. And in order to get from the east side to the west side, you had to go through this no man's land where they had all these people with guns. Then you had to climb the wall. Then you had to jump into a river, swim through the river, and then get back onto land, run through no man's land. And then you would be in the west if you did get shot. So my grandmother did that. So my grandmother did this journey. She decided that she doesn't want to be captured in the east part of Germany, and she decided to climb the wall and swim the river, regardless of she would be getting shot or not. Obviously, she didn't, because she became my grandmother, And I always thought that was such a remarkable thing to do, to decide as a young woman alone to leave the part of your family behind you in order to have a life that you wish for yourself. And I always thought she was so brave, and the story kind of, was very, very prominent in my upbringing. But then, lots of things happened. My grandparents died, and I don't have contact with the rest of my family at the moment. And so this story just came back into my thoughts when you were talking, Sean. And I wanted to thank you for reminding me. And I think it was really beautiful to remember that I have brave people like this in my family, and that there are a lot of people around the world who have to take these big chances where they likely die in order to live a better life. So thank you. And I'm going to move on to Kimberly now. Kimberly says she is a voice actor. I'm a silver vixen, a product model, gardener, and debater and dope human. So, Kimberly, we are very excited to hear your interpretation of the daily proverb today, which I will repeat for you. You must be willing to die in order to live. Kimberly, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Olivia. It's wonderful to hear your voice again. I love the stories that Sean told. It's very literal, right? And your memory as well. So the proverb can fit a literal meaning that you must die to live. There are people here in America, there are people who travel with the detriment or the thought of possibly dying to get here for a particular type of life that they're after. But for me, this proverb kind of struck a figurative nerve. My fiance in the last year has been saying things like, you have to die to yourself to be successful or to be able to find happiness in a relationship with another person. And I find that in life, we spend a lot of time building our business or our careers and working our jobs and creating this persona on social media as this person that we want to look like we are or that society has told us we have to be. And then when you realize that's not really the life that I want, it's very difficult to go from what you think you're supposed to be, what the society has put on you, to how you actually want to live. So for me, I took it as a figurative dying to who you currently feel and believe that you are, whether it's in career or relationship, to actually live the way that you've learned is best for you or what you desire to be. So I really love this proverb, and it's a very wide range of what it fits. So I'm enjoying listening to everybody's perspective. But for me, I took it more figuratively of dying to who you currently are to live in who you really want to be. That's all.
Thank you so much, Kimberly. I totally agree with you, and I think we in the beginning already said that this proverb has so many, like a knife with lots of blades. There are so many possible meanings to it, figuratively, literal, metaphorically. There are so many ways to looking at this, and I absolutely agree with you. Being an artist, I always challenge myself to grow, and sometimes I just have to leave parts of my artistry and of my personality die to become a different or better artist. So yeah, I totally understand and agree with you. And I'm really, really, really happy about what's been said in this room today. It's such a great vibe, and the program is so interesting today. I want to say that I will have to leave the room really shortly, so please, I have to take my kittens to the vet. But yeah, I really, really, really enjoyed today, and I yield the mic back to Simon now.
Thank you so much, Olivia. This is Simon speaking. I was just so consumed by everything that Joanne had to share, and what you shared, and also what Sean shared with us earlier. This is the Daily African Proverbs. My name is Simon Okelo, and it's already been really exciting, and I'm sure we are yet to hear more.
Sorry, Simon, I think I made a mistake. I overlooked Joanne.
Yes.
I let Kimberly speak. My apologies for this. I just see this on my screen now. So just wanted to say I'm sorry, and I'm sure Joanne is going to be next.
Oh, yes, no problem. And on that note, I'll go ahead and introduce the amazing Chido Samantha Mbavarira, who is going to introduce Joanne. Thank you again, Kimberly and Sean, and thank you again, Olivia, for your leadership. I hope your kitten feels better soon. The Kikambe, I see you. Thank you for being here, my brother. And I also want to give a big shout out to Tiff, Countryman, as well as Samantha Udondem, who are co-creators of this space. They've been diligently helping make the Daily African Proverbs what it is. I hope you're all doing well. Now, Chido Samantha Mbavarira is a truly amazing leader. She's an online business strategist by day and being human on Clubhouse by night. Chido is, is from Zimbabwe, but she's lived in Europe. She's currently in Canada, and she's a Trilo slayer, plant mom, and a firm believer. Sundays are for God plus football. Chido, share with us your interpretation of today's proverb, which says, "You must be willing to die in order to live." Thank you so much.
Good morning. Thank you, Simon, for that introduction. I always loved it when you say my full name. I think whenever you say anyone's full name, it's the most poignant and most romantic thing you can say someone's full name. So I always appreciate that. You are one of the very few people who can do that. So you make me happy every time I hear it. Hi, Liv. Hi, the Kikambe. And I see my sister Tiff and Samantha in the audience, other people who have made this space something I enjoy coming to every day. So whenever I get to see people who make this experience so special, it makes me so grateful. Today's proverb, "You must be willing to die in order to live." And I always miss Sean's interpretation. Sean, I think you need to stop coming on the stage so fast, because I missed it and I wish I heard it. But I'm excited to hear more interpretations. I did hear a few others, and this proverb could mean a myriad of things, and I'm just really excited to be poured in and hear everyone else's. But really quickly, what came up for me, my interpretation, I read I think what's meant a quote somewhere, and it was very deep, because it said every time we change our beliefs, change our stories, change our friends, change our situation, we are mourning. A piece of us die every day. And I think when you read this proverb, you think the ultimate death. But I think every time we are going through transitions of loss of a loved one, of a story we used to tell ourselves, a belief, I think a part of us dies in order to stay a course, to go after what we want. So I think a piece of us dies all the time. We shift in life, and I think we don't really recognize that there's tiny little deaths happening, and that's a good thing. Because I think when we are changing and evolving, those tiny deaths mean we're truly living the life we're supposed to live. I think there's so much beauty that can happen in death that we don't really look to. I think birth and death and life are these beautiful balances in the world that, depending on how you look at it, we can have different interpretations. That's why I'm so excited to hear how the ancestors spoke to each of us with this interpretation. But for me, it was reminding that every time I shift, every time I make a decision, every time I move a step forward, I might be changing, and a tiny death might be happening for me to live the life that I want. So there's truly beauty in death, as there is in life. And that was my interpretation of the proverb. That's what came up for me. But I'm really excited to hear from Joan. Joan is works in finance, law reform, public policy. She says we are one. She believes in care, light, and love. I am because you are. So great to have you, Joan, come and grace our stage. The proverb today, you must be willing to die in order to live. A beautiful proverb from Nigeria. Joan, I'd love to pass the mic on to you.
Thank you very much, Shido. And I like the way you have unpacked the proverb today and the way everyone else has unpacked the proverb, you must be willing to die in order to live. Thank you, Simon, for having this platform. I'm very new on Clubhouse, and I think this is my first or second month. So I'm just learning my route as I move on. So for me, I interpret this particular proverb as, finding yourself in a situation where you have to stand for truth, because you have a value system and because, you need to stand for your truth, you are persuaded otherwise, to release your value system in order to follow a different direction. So you do it grudgingly, and in the process, of course, because you're making a turn that you are not very comfortable in doing, then it's like you're losing that path that you're taken, and it may be painful. And the death does not necessarily signify, the literal death, but because you're giving up something that you believe in for whatever purpose. And I believe our ancestors used this proverb just as some sort of encouragement, in the event that probably you lost something, or maybe I want to imagine, the way they used to go to war, and maybe probably the lost, it's not like you've lost your life, but you have lost for them, and you can come back another day to fight and win. And I also view this this particular proverb as, it's never a do or die situation. You must sometimes be willing to walk away. And I think, like has been mentioned earlier, sometimes you're in a bad relationship. And as much as you may value this relationship, but it's not contributing towards your growth, then you may need to just walk away, however painful it is. I relate this particular proverb to a quote by Dinos Christianopoulos, when he said that they buried us and they did not know that we were seeds. So for us, for anything, a plant to come up, for a tree to grow, it has to be buried in the soil. The seed dies, but whatever comes up out again is something beautiful. Thank you very much. I'm out.
Cheetah speaking. Joan, I love when you come up. And even though you're considered a newbie on Clubhouse, you have so much wisdom to share. So it's always a pleasure to have you come up and be vulnerable with us. And I really loved how you closed out your interpretation that you got to be buried. There's death that grows when we bury a seed. It will grow and sprout into life. I love that analogy between trees and being buried and planting and growing. And you did that so eloquently. So thank you so much for coming up and sharing that with us. We appreciate you coming here and sharing your wisdom with us. Next, I have the pleasure of introducing Kimberly. Kimberly is a voice actor. She does a lot of things. She's a product model. She has a t-shirt brand. I am Silver Vixen.
Hi, Chido.
I love the silver hair.
I think
Yes,
we already introduced. I think Kimberly already shared, so I think we should go to Raphael.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine.
I'm sorry, my order is. Yeah, I'm PTRing, but I guess Raphael is next. Raphael, we do this every time. I feel like I always get the pleasure of introducing you. Raphael, if you guys have not heard him speak, he is a Navy veteran. He lives in Brooklyn, but he has deep roots in Nigeria and Ghana. He's an immigrant and a big-time nerd. And I think my most favorite part about him is that he is an awesome dad. And I hope you had a great day yesterday, because I know it was your daughter's birthday, and you still came up and shared with us your interpretation of the proverb, which was so nice. The proverb today: you must be willing to die in order to live. Raphael, I pass the mic on to you.
Greetings, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Tito, sister, and thank you all for the birthday wishes yesterday. Appreciate that. When Sean was talking and she mentioned, oops, sorry, when she mentioned Italy, she took me uh, to my childhood. Well, not really childhood, into my teenage years. I grew up in Venice City, and if you're familiar with Nigeria, and Benin City, Edo State, which is same spelling as if you're into Japanese culture, Ido, the same spelling. Um, we that's like where the main majority of the migrants to Italy head from. So we know the ins and outs of Italy. So if you want to meet people who are in Italy right now who can tell you how Italy works for them, the migrants, some who made it through the desert. You go to the Edo Vibes room in Clubhouse and you meet them. Um, Being that I grew up there, I know a lot of people in there, and I've had a couple of people on the podcast, but from different countries, African countries, who live in Italy. And Italy has always had governments that have been anti-immigrant, although Italians are not necessarily white. That's why if you know American history, you know that there was a time where Italians were considered the white N word. But if you go by Italian history, Italians have even had a black head of state before the country of Italy was formed. The Medici family had a black head. They had a black. Um, their leader was a black leader of the Medici family. And what is this? Okay, yeah, I'll do it for you. That's my daughter. It's interrupted. And so Sean just reminded me of all that history that I have to bring up. But jumping to today's Proverbs, episode 67 of my podcast, I had a guest who was born and raised in Buenos Aires. And the title of that episode is I Had to Die to Be Reborn. And there's a lot of stuff which in the beginning, if you depending on where you were raised or born in Africa, you will relate to what he's talking about, his experiences, his family's experiences based on the time of the time they lived in Argentina. It sounds a lot similar to many African countries. And the main thing that ties him to today's proverb that I'm using him for the interpretation is when he told me before coming on the podcast that this is one thing he wanted to talk about. And he said, I said, are you sure you want to talk about it? He said, yes. So he decided to talk about his first wife. He is one of the few people that I know about who experienced their partner committing suicide. And he was in the house when it happened. And his ex-wife, they had faced a tragic incident together, and she decided, and unfortunately led to a mental breakdown, which they had thought she had recovered. They thought, she was bouncing back, but it was unfortunately she never recovered. And one thing led to another. One day he's taking a shower, and the doorbell rings. He comes out of the bathroom, and she had jumped off the balcony of their apartment building, just a high rise. And he now starts talking about his whole journey afterwards, which I appreciated him doing that on the podcast because that is because now he's remarried, he's now a father, he's moved to a new country. You know, if you meet him now, it wasn't something that I was even expecting to hear about, but the fact that it was his own words that he had to die to be reborn. Many men hide stuff like that. It's something that we're not open about. It's not something that we know society doesn't expect. It's like, oh yeah, we overcame. But how did you overcome? How did you go about that journey? It's not something that just I can open a book and read and ta-da-da, I made it. Or I went to, if you're religious, I went to church and prayed. How low he felt when he felt low, how, what worked as therapy for him. Um, I'm a person who goes to therapy. I believe in therapy. He told you his own type of therapy. And it was just him being coming from his pouring out his soul. And I don't pick the titles for each episode. I pick something from what my guest has said and use that as um as to create a title for each podcast episode. And so when he said I had to die to be reborn, I just went with that. And then the moment Brother Simon let me know that today's proverb is um, speaking about dying and to let me get the quote right again. Was about death and uh, coming back from death. And I just thought about that guest and was like, wow, it's sometimes the world just aligns and you must be willing to die in order to live. So he had to, it was like he died, and but at the same time he wanted to live, and he was literally telling me that in his own words that yes, I had to accept dying, but not dying like the way his wife had died or had chosen to die. And it's not like he's blaming her or he's attacking her or anything, but it was him talking about himself, which, when you listen to it, you listen to that episode, you actually get to hear something that not many people are bold enough to openly talk about for different reasons. But he's where he's at, where he can, admit this is what I faced, this is what I'm still technically facing, because not something that he tells you that, oh, I just overcame, I'm completely done with it, but no. But that's what he chose to share, and I appreciate him as an immigrant.
I think we lost Raphael. Oh, there he is. Hi, Raphael. Tudor speaking. I think you got dropped, but you came back in. Would you like to continue? Raphael, are you still there? Okay. I don't know if Raphael is able
Oh,
to
oh,
speak.
my mic. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You dropped, and I think you came back in, and it muted you as soon as you came
Oh,
back in.
so sorry. Where did you guys lose me? Because I just kept talking. I didn't really realize. All right.
You were concluding talking about your guest and how you're illustrating how he had to die to live after this tragic death of his wife.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll just wrap up on. I'll end it there. Yeah. So he literally died to live. He chose to die to live, and that was his own words. And I believe if you listen to that episode, I can't do it justice because he said it himself. And there are other people who've listened to that have reached out to me and said it spoke to them in a way. So um, as an immigrant, as a dad, as a human being, it's something that I encourage people to uh, listen to. And I wish more people will be more open, but I understand everybody's at different parts on their at different places in their journey. So yes, yeah, we are when we are comfortable, we will be able to do our put ourselves out there. So that's where I'll use my mic at. And sorry for dropping out the mix up. Have a great day, everyone.
Cheetah speaking. No problem, Raphael. I'm happy you came back to complete your interpretation. And one of the amazing things about what you do being a podcaster, and Simon and anyone who gets to podcast and create content like this, is that you don't just share your own stories. You have the privilege of sharing other people's, and it's great when you have such a wealth of wisdom and knowledge, not just from your own experiences, but how impactful someone else's story is on your own life. And you do not have to go through his experience to truly understand the the beauty of life and how powerful someone else's story is. So I really appreciate you coming up and sharing that amazing story. And it's a podcast episode. Would you know the episode number, Raphael, so you can tell people the title, so if they looked it up they can find it?
Episode 67. I had to die to be reborn.
Episode 67. So if you guys want to hear that, definitely tap into Raphael's
Marla.
podcast. Thank you so much, Raphael. That was a powerful story. Thank you for sharing that story with us. Next, we're going to be hearing from Zizi and Kay. But before we do, I want to thank everyone who comes in and gets to start their day. Some people at the end of the day, or some people in the middle of the day, and we get to share wisdom and knowledge with each other. We host the Daily African Proverbs Room every day at 6 a.m. Pacific. No, 7 a.m. Pacific, right? Simon? Yeah, 7 a.m. Pacific time. And it's hosted by Simon, our fierce leader, who is the African father in America. I'm so honored to always hold space and share space with amazing humans who make this space such an important part of my day. And I never leave the same. I always leave with something, with more than I thought I would know. And that's why I'm really excited to hear from Zizi and Kay, because I leave with such a new breath of perspective and life when I hear them speak. So I'm very excited to hear from you two ladies. And with that, Simon, I'm complete. I pass the mic to you.
Thank you very much, Chido. I am on YouTube chatting with Bib. Bib is a regular attendee of the Daily African Proverbs. So I saw her earlier in the room, and I was wondering where she was, and then I just realized that she's actually watching me. She's seeing my face, Anyhow, it's exciting that we are able to live stream this conversation on YouTube so that we can bring it to to people who are unable to be on Clubhouse. And we've been doing that for about 2 weeks now. So right after this conversation, you are able to listen to what we discussed, and sometimes we have guests that join us on YouTube. So if you want to be a guest in any of our Daily African Proverbs session, that's also an opportunity that we would love to extend to you all. But I'm really grateful to be here with you. We have another 10 minutes or so to go. We are discussing a proverb from Nigeria, and the proverb says, "You must be willing to die in order to live." As Chido mentioned, we do this every single day. This room, the Daily African Proverbs, happens every single day at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It used to be 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, but about 2 weeks ago, we began doing it an hour earlier because of a number of reasons. One of the reasons is to be able to live stream this conversation. The other reason is that the school schedule is changing, and I had to accommodate the needs of my daughters. I'm a father of 3 girls, and so starting earlier would allowed me to attend to some of their needs in a less stressful manner. Anyhow, now I want to pass the microphone to my brother, the Kikambe, who is a truly amazing human being. He is also a father, an educator, and an amazing creator. He's a photographer as well. So when you're in Thailand, find him if you want some nice pictures of you taken over there. Okay, I'll mute Zizi here. I don't think she wanted to speak yet, but Zizi is an amazing elder. We are going to hear from her in just a moment. The Kikambe is, saying that in a world where you can be superhuman, smile at the people around you. Love is the power you bestow upon people. My brother, share with us your interpretation and guide the conversation for the next few minutes.
Thank you so much, Brother Simon. Thank you for the opportunity and thank you for the great introduction. I love you, brother. It's a lesson I learned from our Mama Zizi, and she speaks about this every day. And so I try and use that statement to people that I care for. So I love you. I love you, Cheeto. Love you, Zizi. I love you, Kay. I love you, the Kikambe. I love you, Marla. I love you, Ron. Love you, Tara. Sean, John, Tiff, Roger, Samantha, Orlando, Jay, Ivna, Makoba, Jeff, Andy, Mamayama, Stephanie, Olami, Piyush, Uzuri, April, Kemet, Jeff. I love you. Apologies. Somebody is here to speak to me. Yes, Mama.
Night, night.
Night, night, Mama. Nakupenda.
Night, night.
Night, night. Sorry, my little one was here to say goodnight to me. I love you. That was the statement I wanted to share with all of us. Brother, I wasn't here a few days yesterday, but thankfully YouTube teaches me lessons, and that the lesson is that Simon has been recorded the conversation that was here yesterday, and it was about how only when a tree is big, then you can tether a cow. So I loved listening into that. So thank you very much for sharing that with us. Today's proverb is, you must be willing to die in order to live. To me, this proverb calls for sacrifice. But before I give my interpretation for the proverb, I would like to pass my biggest respect to Mama Zizi. I see that she is here, and it's such a pleasure to be the one to introduce Mama Zizi. Among so many things that she has taught me, she taught me that it is difficult to truly give a hug to somebody in a wheelchair. So it is really difficult to truly give a hug to somebody who you're not in a physically related position with them. Mama Zizi is Egyptian Canadian, educated in the USA. She's an author with some phenomenal teachings. She's a retired clinical psychologist and a spiritual healer with 35 years of experience. She says that she intends to impact and inspire others, one person at a time. Mama Zizi, I am looking forward to hear more about your interpretation for this proverb today. Just so you know, everyone, Mama Zizi is now a 3 times international best-selling author and spiritual poet on Amazon. Check her out. I truly think you should. Mama Zizi, the microphone is yours with respect.
Oh my God, you and Simon just make me feel so, welcome and so loved. I don't get that everywhere. Well, my interpretation today is not, it's more spiritual. So the way I see it is, I think spiritually, you need to die before you live again. You need to feel that there's nothing that is holding you and you're not attached to all these ephemeral worldly things. And you're not controlled by your ego in order to live a life that's worth living. Of course, this is not something that young people can do easily. I think you need to, at least be 40 or 45 to be able to say that. But with every breath is a chance to be reborn spiritually. But to be reborn in a new life, you have to die before dying, before living. There's a quote by Rumi, you know how much I love him. And he said, I died as a mineral and became a plant. I died as a plant and rose to animal. Then I died as an animal and I was a man. Why should I fear death? When was I ever less by dying or become more? I think I'm complete and I thank you all for the love. And I want to say I love you to you, Simon, Chido, Kikombe, to me too, to Kay, Maria, Ron, and Tara. And I have a problem a little bit today with my voice. So Kikambe has done it for me and loved you all. I would love to tell you, each one of you, I love you and I hug you and I kiss you and wish you the best of everything. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama Zizi. That wisdom has sunk down with the gravity that it deserves. I I like what you say that with every breath there is a chance to be reborn. Thank you very much for sharing with us. At this point, I would like to introduce Kay Benjamin. Kay is Atlanta based and destined to live in Ghana. I agree with you. Kay says that we are not Africans because we were born in Africa. We are Africans because Africa is born in us, is a quote from one of our founding fathers in Africa, Kwame Nkrumah. She says that every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better. Kay is the founder of internationalblackbook.com, which is a directory for Black people throughout African diaspora for businesses, non-profit NGOs, and individuals. And it's free. It's a project of Strike for the Rock Foundation for Women and Children. Kay, I would like to hear your interpretation for today's proverb that says, you must be willing to die in order to live. Microphone is yours, my sister. Are you here, Kay? Okay. I think Kay is not here with us. I think if it's okay with everybody, may
I'm
I?
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I
no, yay.
I didn't unmute.
It's okay. I cannot tell you how many times I've done that. Yeah,
I
it's
was
okay.
just chatting away. But thank you for this space and this time. My first thought.
My phone just died, so I am bringing back Clubhouse in a second. Bear with me for a minute. I know that those of you on YouTube cannot hear the Clubhouse conversation, so my phone is dying a slow death.
Respond through my ego and resist because but I also had to remind myself that it says you must be willing to die. Say die. It says willing. And I thought about an incident that I had over the weekend where I had to meet some people at 8:00 in the morning. And there was a lot going on about how important it was for actors and crew to be there early, and that we should indeed be there at 7:45. So indeed, I got there early, and nobody was there. And being late is a big thing for me. I worked on it, but it's a big thing for me. So finally, other people trickled in, and there was a kind of a group of us just waiting for these people who had told us to be on time. And my ego had me wanting to leave. I used car service and just call Uber, Lyft, and have them take me back home. And when I heard this proverb, I think that my ego was feeling that it would have to die to take this type of abuse. And I went right into a diva status thing. And so then my other parts of me began to talk about, well, if you leave, you will be disappointing the other 10 actors who are here, the 5 writers who wrote, the other 5, and you also have family who has bought tickets to come to the show. So yes, it would be very easy for you to leave in a huff because you cannot be treated that way. But we can also consider, and I thought it was very important for me to embrace that I was angry. Not to say you shouldn't be. No, it's okay that you're angry, but we are also something else. And when I was able to balance those things out, then indeed the ego did not have to die because it participated in staying. And I was glad that I stayed, and the show was good. And I had many other lessons to learn during the course of that day. So I guess the important things that I found in the proverb was to know that even though it said the word die, to look at the whole thing, it before getting in a tizzy about die, realize what the whole thing said. It said willing. You might think you're going to die, but you don't. So it's just the willingness that it's requiring so that you can live and move forward. And if I had decided to stay with the ego decision, that would not move me forward. So that would not allow me to live. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your sharing, and it sinks deep down. Life in itself is a kind of death in process, and that perhaps we should understand the idea of death and perhaps understand it further than stigmatize it relatively. Thank you for sharing. I appreciate your sharing. Every time I come in here, I I learn new lessons, and one of the lessons I'm learning at the moment is the idea of stimulus and response, and just taking that pause. I think I read somewhere once that between stimulus and response, there is a pause. And in this pause lies the power to make the right choices, or lies the power to make choices that are mindful. And when I'm in this room, when somebody is sharing, often I'm tempted to sort of respond, but I know that in me, I need to process the virtue of listening to understand rather than listening to respond. And so when I look at this proverb based on how people have shared, I see a common pattern here, and I see the pattern to me is that there is sacrifice. A few days ago, we were discussing the proverb that says that one who causes others misfortunes also instills wisdom in them. And like Mama Zizi says, that with every breath, there is a chance to be reborn. And to me, I think that is the idea. The idea that there is sacrifice, idea that situations will call to shed off one part of your life in order for the other to flourish. And I often believe that to truly cross the bridge of knowledge as an educator, often you must shed off the skin of ignorance. And so for you to advance with learning, you got to be able and willing to kill ignorance and also show that you want to learn. Um, when I look at situations where people have excelled, when I look at situations where people have um, gone and become extraordinary, I see that they have had to sacrifice their personal life. When I look at marriage, for example, in order for you to be in a successful marriage, you have to go ahead and kill yourself and be willing to kill your single self. In order for you to be excellent at an art, you have to be able to sacrifice or kill time with that art. In order for you to be successful, often there is the idea that you have to sacrifice stability and be flexible. If you are stable and you're rigid and not flexible, you sort of will not be able to be successful. If you really want something so much, you must be willing to go out of your way. You have to put away your sanity. You have to put away your sanity in order to sort of ruffle the feathers of mainstream thinking as you take the mountaintop. In order for you to create a great future, then you have to kill, or you need to sacrifice patience, and you also need to kill the idea that you want immediate results. I am the Kikambe, and I would like to pass the microphone back to our brother Simon.
The Kikombe, thank you so much. I am just having a good time today. We are literally having a bigger audience on YouTube today than I actually ever imagined, and a lot of them were already speakers in this room. So I am just so grateful to you, Joanne, Bib, Bibi. You know, one day you'll kill me by how I say Bib. But Bibi Wiley, and then Raphael. Thank you all for joining me on YouTube. This conversation has been amazing. We've gone a little past the 1 hour mark, and I'm just so excited to hear from Marla. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means so much. I'll actually go ahead and introduce you because I think Chido had to leave. I believe it's Marla that we're introducing next to Kikombe. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct, brother.
Fantastic. So Marla, again, I've been in a number of rooms where you're leading conversations, and I've just been so inspired by you. And thank you so much for helping amplify what we are trying to do in this room on Twitter through your platform. And Marla says that I amplify nouns I believe in and move crowds. Share with us your interpretation of today's proverb, my dear. And the proverb is, you must be willing to die in order to live. This is a Nigerian proverb. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Hello to everyone listening here on Clubhouse and on YouTube. I'm grateful for this space, and I must acknowledge my sister Chioma, who has invited me many times, and I have had conflicts while on the platform, but it was being in a room with you, Simon, and following you that I've made it an intentional practice to come into the room this week. So just gratitude to all that has been said and to everyone that preceded me. And the idea that I amplify nouns that I believe in, and the idea, the play on and the juxtaposition of nouns and verbs and people and places and things. And so this intention of coming here daily for the African proverb, the daily African call to action, because verbs are about action. And I love that Kay preceded me and really kind of honed in on the willingness piece, because that really stuck out to me. So I will pass that because that has been lifted. But to die, it made me think of, what am I willing to do? What am I willing to sacrifice? What am I willing to surrender? What am I willing to leave behind? That death is a verb, meaning to stop living, to stop existing. So what are the outmoded behaviors that I have that need to be released or surrendered? What are the behaviors that now that I am older and I have acquired wisdom that I can leave behind? What are the perceptions or misconceptions about people, places, and things that I have carried? You look at the world with so rife with so much prejudice and hatred. So much of that needs to die in order for us to truly live. And that living is also a verb, and to remain alive, to make one's home in a particular place or with a particular person, and that we can take up that charge, and that we can be the change that we wish to see by being intentional about self-reflection, to look into clear mirrors, to sit with clear glasses of water, and be introspective about the things in us that no longer serve us, that we can willingly let die so that we can truly live and accept our life's mission, and to co-collaborate with those that we have the honor and the privilege to do life with, so that the world can be better because we were in it. My name is Marla Campbell Harris, and I am complete.
Wow. Thank you so much, Marla. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful, especially of how you reminded us of how verbs are about action, and how the daily African proverbs, proverbs are about action, and that this is a daily call to action. That's a wake-up call to me. So thank you very much. Now I want to introduce Ron. Ron Mulville has been a great contributor to the Daily African Proverbs as well as Africa Day, and Ron has been making films around the world since studying as an exchange student at the University of Nairobi, Kenya, which opened his awareness to Africa and its wisdom and cultures. Ron, share with us your interpretation of today's proverb from Nigeria. And this proverb says, "You must be willing to die in order to live." Ron, before you speak, I just want to let everyone on YouTube to know that I'm super, super grateful, for the time that you've created to join us. Feel free to join us again right after this conversation with my brother, the Kikambe, for the recap of our daily African Proverbs conversation. We are going to go live on Instagram, where we will look at three things: what stood out during our conversation today, what was surprising, and also what was the biggest lesson. This is like a 10 to 15 minute conversation that we would love for you to join us for. Ron, the microphone is yours.
Asante sana. Thank you, Simon, and everyone in the room, and for all the love in the room. I'm blessed to be here, and this is one of my favorite proverbs, because I believe life, the traumas and some of the pain and the suffering we go through is we create almost a prison for ourselves. And so we have to liberate ourselves from these prisons. And by doing that, we start living again. So also it's dear to my heart, because I co-produced and co-directed a film with the African filmmaker from Tanzania, Martin Mahando. And this film is called Maangamizi, the Ancient One. And Maangamizi actually in Swahili means destruction. And the ancient ancestor, the grandmother of grandmothers, is named Mangamizi. And she helps
bring the African diaspora and Africans together in a contemporary way. And that's the film we made. We spent years making it, and it's now being re-released in Tanzania after 20 years. So the people are getting to see it, and it's all about the wisdom of the ancestors and how our ancestors come and prod us to try and help us to release ourselves from the death that we experience through the prisons we create. So I just wanted to share that. And also, I'm happy to be here on the anniversary of my birth. So I'm saying goodbye to, and in a way, the last year dying and the new year living. So thank you for having us. And I love this room. I love starting every day with the daily African proverb. And I'm sending love out to the world. And I'm finished, and I'm Ron.
Thank you so much, Ron. I'm so grateful for your share, and thank you for all the the amazing work in regards to the films that you've created. I'm grateful. Thank you again for being a consistent supporter of the Daily African Proverbs. I know that Tara is on YouTube with us. The Kikambe is over there as well. I'm just so happy that we're able to chat over there, besides just seeing my face talk about what's going on. But really, we are at the tail end of our conversation here in the Daily African Proverbs room on Clubhouse. It's a space where we've been gathering since January, and when we are gathered here, I believe that we are making our ancestors proud. So thank you for doing this together with us. And Ron, by the way, happy birthday. Now I want to introduce Tara, who is also an amazing supporter of the Daily African Proverbs. Thank you for being here consistently. And Tara says that art is not what you see, but what you make others see. Thank you very much. Share with us your interpretation of today's proverb from Nigeria that says, "You must be willing to die in order to live."
Thank you, Simon, and thank you for this amazing forum. I want to say to Zizi, thank you so much for your expression of love. I love you, Zizi, and I am so appreciative for your presence in this room continuously. Simon, I love you, and the Kikambe, I love you. I'm very thankful for the relationships that we're developing. And Ron, happy birthday, and I celebrate your life. So my interpretation of this proverb, "You must be willing to die in order to live," starts with a probably short story. It just happened last night, so I haven't created that narrative. I haven't refined it yet, but I was babysitting a friend's children. She has 3 children, a daughter that's almost 11, typical oldest child, and twins who are almost 7. And the oldest child got a new bike, and we went for a walk. The oldest child has a new bike, and she was zipping up and down the hills, and it was kind of scary for me. I'm actually kind of scared of riding a bike, so it was scary for me, and I'm not used to the kids doing that. And then the twins that were younger, one of them was not doing quite as much as she was, but still pushing herself and getting out there a little bit. And then the other one, the boy, actually was much more apprehensive. And so he was on the steep hills, he was walking down them, walking his bike down them. And I thought then, before I even heard this proverb, of the difference between this apprehension and how being fearful and not being willing to take a risk can sometimes steal the amount that we live and the joy that we can receive in life. And how I mean, I think the boy will definitely grow, and he will face these challenges eventually. But even comparing him with his twin sister was interesting to see how apprehensive he was and how willing she was, and how the difference between their experience. They both enjoyed themselves, but the daughter, who was more willing to take a chance and take a risk, was enjoying herself more. So I look at that as a metaphor, and then this proverb, you must be willing to die in order to live. And I apply it to some things in my life. I used to be what I felt like was a really courageous person in a lot of ways, and I've lost a lot of that courage. And this year, I feel like is kind of bringing it back to me. And to be frank, this room has done a lot of that, because a lot of it is about relationships and how much I love. And then it's meeting people who are willing to be expressive about their love and allow me to be expressive about their love, but also just receiving them in their strengths and weaknesses. And if I dislike something, realizing it's not them, it's me, and vice versa. And yeah, so it's been hard for me to establish some of these relationships and to do things like come up here on stage and speak. But I died to those fears, and I'm willing to take that chance and maybe suffer for it so that I can receive more joy and enjoyment. And so that is my interpretation, and I'm complete.
Thank you so much, Tara. I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful really because sometimes it takes meeting people for you to remind yourself of how great you are, and hearing people that that speak life into you, that speak courage into you, and that also exemplify how you can turn moments of defeat into moments of victory. So thank you again for being here with us, and thank you to all of you who are in this room in this moment with us, for choosing to spend your morning or evening with us. It means so much. And we are going to see you in a few minutes on Instagram, where I don't want to spoil it, but we have so much to share with you in regards to what stood out today, what was surprising, and also the biggest lessons that we learned. We will also have a special guest on the Instagram live, so see you there if you can. But truly, tomorrow is going to be another amazing session here at 6 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, here in the African Father in America Club. So please follow the club if you haven't. Again, my brother, the Kikambe, and Samantha, and all the moderators of the Daily African Proverbs, thank you for all the amazing work that you're doing to make this possible. Have a beautiful day, everyone. Peace and love.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast.